It isn't panic time just yet, but it bloody well will be rather soon as the new faction is added to Raid Shadow Legends, which we can expect to happen at some point before the end of 2025, which is kinda terrifying. And why is this so gnarly? Because if you were anywhere close at all to finishing normal mode faction wars, or even hard mode faction wars, but for this video, normal mode faction wars and getting Lydia on your account, then you better be ready to have to completely clear a whole new faction when this faction is added to the game. So whether you are close to Lydia and need a little bit of a push, a little bit of a nudge to get your faction wars cleared, I'm going to cover all kinds of champion suggestions and champion types that absolutely blast through faction wars. Are going to help you finish all of these normal mode faction crypts for the very, very first time. Or even if you're a mile away from Lydia and you're just looking for some general advice on actually progressing through faction wars for each faction, then this video is going to be for you, man. The very first thing we're going to cover are the three major roles that you absolutely must build going into faction wars to just get all of your factions teams up to snuff. Before we get to that, man, if you're looking to create a new raid account, make sure to get that done right now while Michelangelo is the login reward champion. That's only going to last until the end of October, so don't wait about. Click on the beginner promo link that is down below this video at the top of the description box, man. By using that link to create your new raid account on laptop or PC, it's not going to work on mobile devices that have ever had raid downloaded before, ever on that device. So laptop or PC, use that link. You're going to get Basilius Roranus as your day one starter legendary champion, as well as 3 free epic champions as you level up your account. It's the best beginner promo link going, and the only correct way to create a new raid account, man, in 2025. So the 3 roles that you want to build for every faction, with some example champions that you could build for each faction in these roles. That is to say, I'm not going to cover a bunch of champions for every faction because I'd be here for 2 hours, but you know, these 3 champion types are going to be, first of all, an AoE nuker, 2 is going to be a wave controller, and 3 is of course going to be a reviver. If you have at least 1 champion type of each of these 3 types built out, level 60'd, and popping off for each of your factions, faction wars get a hell of a lot easier, and you can fill in the blanks with increased speed buffers and, you know, decreased speed debuffer champions and AoE decreased defense champions and all of that stuff, right? But these 3 roles are really the key roles for getting anywhere inside of normal mode faction wars and getting your Lydia in time before the new faction is released. Now, for some factions, building a damage dealer is going to be pretty bloody obvious. If you pull something like a Phoenix, right? We're not going to spend very long on the damage dealers, by the way, because it's pretty obvious, right? But some of them are going to speak for themselves. If you pull a Phoenix, you're going to build him anyway for things like Ice Golem and stuff like that. Is great A1 skill. Blocking revive and dealing just copious amounts of damage with it being a double hit is ridiculously good. And while he doesn't bring a lot of AoE damage, he's only got an AoE skill on his A2 on a 410 cooldown, and so that sucks a little bit. He'll probably be enough as long as you've got like the other roles covered going into faction wars to do the job for you for your Sacred Order faction, for example. So you don't have to go out of your way for every faction. Other factions, however, maybe you are struggling a little bit on what to build, or maybe you're just looking to build a second damage dealer to shore things up a little bit, because maybe you've got like a Morag for your dwarves, but you've got a more built fast to be like an ally attack specialist to help you out into Fire Knight and Fire Knight clears and that kind of thing, and damage for your Morag might be kind of secondary. It just depends where your account is and what gear you've got available to you. You might want to go ahead and build even just a budget option damage dealer champion, something like a Candle Guard, who honestly, I can't speak highly enough of this red champion, man. I feel like she's very, very largely slept on. She brings multiple attack all enemies skills. She also self-buffs with increased attack, increased crit rate, only small versions, but still. And this A3 is on a 410 cooldown, but then she's got another attack all enemies skill that places weak version of Weaken, which I always find a bit strange to say, on a 310 cooldown. And so multiple attack all enemy skills, even if you're eventually not going to use her as a damage dealer into faction wars, you can eventually put her in like a stun set and she can do just fine as like a wave controller a little bit later on. So be on the lookout for champions like that. You might also find that in some factions like the Orcs, when it comes to your damage dealers, you're just a bit starved for options for stuff to actually build that's like good, that you actually want to build to use it, because you don't just want to build a damage dealer just for faction wars if you can avoid it, and that's doable for most factions, right? You can build a champion that you use in many other areas of the game, and they're going to help you out in faction wars too, and that's great. But unless you put like a seer for the Orcs to just be like one-shotting waves in faction wars or something, what else are you really going to build? I mean, 2 hacks, fine, but we're talking like Void epics here that are a little bit tougher to get. For the Orcs faction, you might have to just bite the bullet and go back and 60 a Gallic if you're really desperate for damage dealers. But ideally, for most factions, you're able to build a damage dealer that you actually plan on using in other areas of the game as well, right? The likes of a Siege Hulk that brings AoE decreased defense as well as, you know, solid AoE damage, and brings it a bit of a decreased speed debuff and some 10 meter control on his A1. You could use them into stuff like Dark Fade, stuff like that, you know. Hopefully you're getting multiple uses out of each nuker that you build for each faction, but it's not quite always possible. So that's all I'm going to say about your damage dealers. Next role that we've got to touch on is going to be your wave controllers, right? These are the kind of champions that are going to support your team and get you through faction wars, waves, and even to some extent against the bosses as well, and help you out against the bosses when your damage dealers just aren't able to one-shot everything anymore, and that time is coming, right? If you're a new player, you feel like, oh my god, I can just one-shot everything if I just build enough damage. Yeah, that's only going to get you so far most of the time. Eventually, you're going to want to build champions like Giscard the... God, I nearly called him Giscard the Sigiled, man. Like all of the American content creators here on YouTube, you know, Giscard the Sigiled, man. I feel like Ash started that off, and now everyone just calls him Giscard the Sigiled. Giscard the Sigiled is a great option for a controller champion. Not only does he bring increased defense, increased attack buffs, strong versions on a 310, which is really good, but he also brings an attack all enemies 310 cooldown A2 skill, which has a 75% chance buck to placing provoke for 110. Champions like this, champions that are going to keep your team alive when your damage dealers can't just one-shot everything and can't just one-shot all of the waves, you know. Giscard also brings a decreased attack debuff on his AR1 at a 75% land rate too, which is going to be pretty useful against bosses also, and he brings a ally defense aura in faction crypts, 27%. Very solid, very solid option, honestly. Way slept on for how good he is into faction wars. Some other options that we can also touch on as well are going to be the Barbarians, who have, of course, Hoskaril, one of the best wave control champions in the game, with a 75% land rate stun on his A2 on a 310 cooldown. Bloody excellent, really good. Also brings another stun on his A1, which is great. Does he bring increased defense for all allies? He does, okay. It is actually an increased defense buff on all allies, increased res on all allies for 210, so 410 on his A3, which is just great. Defense in faction crypts, 30%, okay, which is mental. And then on his passive, not only is he immune to stuns, but he increases the damage inflicted by all allies by 15% when attacking into stunned enemies. Just amazing, like one of the best stun wave control champions in the game. That's what I'm talking about, man. Hard crowd control, right? Stuff like provokes, freezes, stuns, even AoE decrease speeds. Creodan checks a lot of these boxes for the Sylvan Watchers. Makes you basically unable to die against waves. Can I just say, Creodan is one of those guys. He is a hack, he's a cheat code against waves. He's great to hard mode Fire Knight as well, so that's lovely, right? You can use him in a hard mode Fire Knight because he brings so many freeze debuffs in his kit. He also brings an increased speed buff and 10 meter boost on a 310 on his A3, which is lovely. And then he brings an attack all enemies 2 times each hit with a 65% chance bucked of placing freeze for 110 on a 310 cooldown A2. Like, my god, man. And, like, waves of enemies are just not getting to play the video game that is Raid Shadow Legends if you've got Creodan on your team, which is just great. He, like, trivializes that area of the game for your Sylvan Watchers. Build a Creodan. All you then have to worry about is killing the bosses in faction wars, you know? There is a whole other subcategory of wave controllers that we're going to get to as well in just a second, but the last one that I got to touch on is going to be a champion that I have built on my free-to-play account that I got as like a fusion component champion. I actually don't have him on my main account, as you can see him on my main right now. That's Gom Yellowhand. This guy is unreal. I mean, rivals Hoskaril in terms of his wave control potential. He brings an increased speed buff and continuous heal on a 310 on his A2, so great, he checks those boxes. Increased speed is amazing to bring. And then on his A3, 310 cooldown, decrease the turn rate of all enemies by 15%, okay? Then a 75% chance of placing stun on all enemies for 110 as well. And he's void affinity, so unlike Hoskaril, he doesn't have the chance of weak hitting into certain affinities of enemies, because, of course, you know, void affinity champs can't weak hit on attack all enemy skills unless they're attacking like Poison Cloud or something, you know? So he's got that going for him as well. Arguably an even better controller champion than the Husk. And so, yeah, very good. Attack aura in all battles by 25% as well. And that's what I'm talking about, man. These wave controller champions, one of these for each faction is huge. Now, if you're struggling a bit for a certain faction, for example, oh, I don't know, the Demon Spawn faction, look out for good stun set candidates, okay? You pull yourself a Nazana on your Demon Spawn faction, she can be your wave controller. Might not seem like it on the surface, she can do the job in a stun set. Why? She brings it to attack all enemies A1. That's like a huge signal right there that you've got a stun set specialist champion on your team. She also brings an ally protection buff as well, which is, again, great for anytime you do take attacks. Ally Protector is going to help keep your Neds and your squishy nukers alive. That's also on a 310 cooldown. And then she brings in attack all enemies on the A3, also 310 cooldown, 75% land decrease attack debuff on this A3 skill. So great stun set candidate, powerful debuffs, Great ally protection, very, very solid champion. Now pay close attention to Nazana's kit, right? Attack all enemies, decrease attack. Attack all enemies A1, and then observe Infernal Baroness, the very next champion in the Demon Spawn faction, who also brings an attack all enemies A1 with a little bit of healing, who also brings an attack all enemies 3-turn cooldown decrease attack with a 75% land rate. And to be fair, A3 is a bit different. She places Veil buff on an ally, but whatever. It's just so funny to me, man. These champions are like the same champion. One's HP based, one's defense based, so they're both like defensive stats as well. Like, it's kind of funny. But yeah, either of these champions like this can do an incredible job in a stun set. You might even want to go for a way more budget option, right? A champion that's not talked about enough is going to be Ingot Twiststaff of the Sylvan Watchers, right? I could be touching on Karzad Depart for the Dwarves. I could be touching on Banshee for the Undead Hordes faction. Any rare champion that, again, brings multiple skills, ideally on 3-turn cooldowns that are attack all enemies type skills, right? Ingot Twiststaff brings attack all enemies 3-turn cooldown with some 10 meter fill on his A2, and brings attack all enemies chance of placing Leech for a couple turns, increase accuracy buff, blah blah blah. Also on a 3-turn cooldown on his A3, so another great stun set candidate. What I will say about these rare champions is that oftentimes you don't even have to take a stun set rare champion up to level 60. They can do fine at level 50 as long as you're able to keep them safe and keep them protected in faction wars. Level 50 is usually enough so that they can survive like a smack or two to the face. And you should be running a reviver in your faction wars team anyway, so even if they do die, it's not always the biggest problem if you're just trying to get 3 stars into stage for the very first time, and that it's not usually necessary to take them up to 60. I like to anyway, just because I hate leaving champions sitting at level 50. I like getting a banner on even my support champions and my stun set champions for those speed rolls, get them moving even faster and just get more stuns off, but oftentimes you can leave them at 50. And so that's AoE nukers covered, that's your wave controllers covered in a little bit more depth and some example champions to touch on. Finally, this brings us to the revivers, because you might think to yourself, oh my god man, well, it's all well and good having these champion types built, but if you just get to the boss and you just got people dying and dropping like flies, what the hell are you gonna do? Getting 3 stars on each faction war stage is of course necessary for getting Lydia, and to get 3 stars on normal mode faction war stages, you have to keep your entire team alive by the end of the fight, you know, and so having champions to pick your guys back up is kind of bloody crucial. Now, you might look out, okay, and just get something like some of the best revivers in the game, epic quality revivers, that is, stuff like Ursula the Mourner, head on into the Knight's Revenant, of course, you know what I'm going to point to next, it's going to be good old Rector Drath, right, incredible healer, incredible reviver, perfect veil buffs, just an amazing champion overall, right, and so if that's the case, you're going to be taking this champion to 60 anyway. Who gives a damn? Who gives a damn, right? You're not going to have that luxury for all of your factions, right? You might have to scrape the bottom of the barrel a little bit. And generally speaking, it's almost always worth just building at least one reviver for every single faction. Anyway, almost regardless of their quality, but with like some exceptions, like some are better than others. If you go into the Orcs, you've got a lot of great options here. If you go into the Orcs, you've got like Old Hermit Yorg, who brings 10 meter boost and increased attack, which is lovely, and then brings a double revive at a 510 on his A3. Great. You've got Tagore that you can pick from. He brings some heals and increased speed, as well as a team-wide revive on a 510 cooldown. 2 amazing reviver options there. If you're absolutely desperate and you don't have Tagore or Old Hermit Yorg, well, you will get Shaman for free on your account. I actually don't have Shaman on my main account, as you can see, because yeah, I turned her into a chicken. I think that she's that bloody useless. But if you want to take a suboptimal, weaker, like, look at Shaman's kit. I mean, what are we doing, right? She brings an attack one enemy, plays weak increased crit rate buff in allies for 2 turns on her A2. Sucks. Her revive is only a single target revive with the same cooldown duration as Tagore's and Old Hermit Yorg's, which bloody sucks. And her A1 just smacks with a very small chance of removing a buff. So it's like, she brings a defense aura in faction crypts, but she's not very good, man. She's just not very good, you know? And so with a case like Shaman, you can go ahead and build her out just to level 50. Build her in like 6 pieces of immortal gear if you have to. Nice high health, good defense stats, a set like regeneration or immortal that's going to just be healing her up over time. Just do whatever you can to make sure that she doesn't die. And her one job in the team is going to be to revive, and you can make it through faction wars by doing that. In fact, the healer or reviver that I use for my Skinwalkers faction to actually clear faction wars on my main account was actually none other than the rare champion Torlog. Good old Torlog, man. And you know what? I took him all the way up to 60 as well, man, for a video recently. But I did it with him at level 50. Right? Torlog, little champion, right? Double hit at A1. Each hit heals him by a bit of his HP. Okay, fine. Brings weak version, increased defense, and a continuous heal buff. That continuous heal buff, by the way, it only lasts for one turn. But when it expires, his passive converts it into a weak version, a 7.5% version of continuous heal for an extra 10. So that's fine. Like, his healing is actually pretty okay. And then he brings a 4-turn cooldown. Revive skill on his A3. So a shorter cooldown revive skill than the epic champion shaman. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was able to do the job just fine. Now, I would say that with a champion like Torlog, be very, very careful with his continuous heal buffs. You will come up against, I think, the stage 21 Faction Wars boss in Skinwalkers steals your team's buffs. That's a problem. Right? That's a problem. If it's stealing continuous heal buffs of all your team, that's like a billion continuous heals that suddenly appear on the boss, and it's going to heal itself up to full. And so you might have to like micro the fight a little bit to make sure that you're not getting these buffs stolen at just like a bad time in the fight. But besides that, I was able to do it using Meat Carver Torlog. Of course, we've got the likes of much better rare champion reviver options like Tree Shield Knot. Very, very good reviver. Probably the best rare reviver in the game. In fact, definitely the best rare reviver in the game. Double revive at a 5-turn cooldown. Places shield on revived allies. He brings a speed aura and faction crypts. It's only small, but it's better than nothing. Triple hit at A1. Some healing and some shielding. Increased defense buff. On a 3-10 on his A2. Great option. Another bottom of the barrel option is going to be in the Ogren Tribes faction. I don't like this guy. I don't like Gear Grinder, man. I'm not a big fan of this guy at all. Like, you compare his kit to Tree Shield Knot, and it's like, he brings a heal, but he doesn't bring increased defense. He doesn't bring any shields or anything like that. He brings a revive, but it's only a single target revive on a 5-turn cooldown. It's like, and this guy's a void rare. Same as Tree Shield Knot. So it's like, how is Tree Shield Knot so... And Tree Shield Knot brings a speed aura in faction crypts. This guy just brings HP. It's like... Tree Shield Knot is just too good, is the real problem, you know, but you can go ahead and build the likes of a Gear Grind if you need to, just up to level 50 to get you through. And there you have it, guys. Seriously, don't wait about with this. If you're like 700 stars in or something towards getting your Lydia out of like the 900 that you need, I would hard focus Faction Wars development and developing Faction Wars champions for all of the upcoming champion training events and champion training tournaments and CVC and stuff like that. Be blasting those champions up, man, getting them to 60 and getting this thing finished before the new faction is added. I will say as well is that once the new faction is added, like right now where it's just set to hidden, I believe that when Pyram add a new faction to the game, they give you like 1 month or something. Before they then increase the star cost of Lydia, so there's like a little bit of leniency. Like, as soon as the new faction comes out, the price of Lydia shouldn't instantly increase up to like 970 stars or whatever the hell it's going to be, you know. So you will have a little bit of leniency with that, but it's better to get ahead with it now if you are in any way close. And if you're a mile away from Lydia, hopefully this video is going to help you get your Faction Wars teams really off the ground. Once you've got to stage 20, at least in all of the dungeons that you want to hit stage 20 in, those should of course be your priority before doing this, you know what I'm saying. Thanks for stopping by, man. Hope this video was just a little smidgen helpful. If I missed any Faction Wars God champions that I didn't spotlight in this video, by the way, please do go ahead and plop them down below in the comments, or even a certain role in Faction Wars that I neglected to cover. That would help people out as well, I'm sure. And that's what we're all about on this channel, gosh darn it. Thanks for stopping by, man. If you're looking to create a new raid account, make sure to get that done right now by using the beginner promo link. It's down below this video at the top of the description box, man, for the best start possible and all the free stuff that you see on screen right now, and I am going to catch all of you guys just a tad bit later.